I want to tell you a story, no be story yo. I want to tell you a story, no be story yo. Hello again, Terence McGuana here. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to look at Finding Fela from 2014. This film tells the story of musical legend Fela Kuti, his life, his music, his social and political importance. He created a new musical movement known as Afrobeat, using the forum to express his revolutionary political opinions against the dictatorial Nigerian government of the 70s and 80s. The first time that I ever heard Fela's music was about 5 years ago. When I first started seeing my partner Vivi, I thought to myself, I should probably download some African music, I'm sure she'd like that. And I didn't know the first thing about African music. And so I went onto iTunes and I just typed in African music. And the first person who appeared was Fela Kuti. I was like, Fela Kuti, who's that? I don't know. I'm sure he's great, right? So I downloaded a few of his tracks, and my goodness, the very first one I heard, My Lady Frustration, ba-ba-da, ba-ba-ba-da, hey, 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 hey. That one, right? I was just absolutely smitten by that song straight away. I couldn't even listen to the other songs yet because I had this one on a constant rotation. I would just play it and play it and play it. I couldn't even bring myself to listen to any other music. Just this one track. I was just mesmerised. Absolutely mesmerised by it. And then when I got into some other tracks like Open and Close, Open, Close, Open, Close, I was just absolutely hooked, right? There's something about Fela's music that just is all encapsulating. I've always been a big fan of James Brown. I saw him live in 1998 and he was just absolutely amazing. Did a 3-hour set, never took a break, right? He was just unbelievable. I don't know how old James Brown was at that time, but he was no spring chicken, but he moved like he was in his 20s. And James Brown to me was just the funkiest man that ever lived, absolutely, without a doubt, right? But then I heard Zombie by Fela Kuti, and the funny thing is, the first time I actually listened to this song was when I was in Africa. I was in Mombasa in Kenya at the time, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. I don't think I'd heard anything so funky in my entire life. I think for me, Fela Kuti took James Brown to school with that song. Now this is a documentary, Finding Fela, from 2014, and it looks at Fela Kuti's life whilst also looking at the preparation for the Broadway musical Fela, looking back at just what an amazing achievement musically and politically that this man actually had. Now, the strange thing is, I really admire Fela Kuti in certain aspects of his life. There are certain aspects of his life that I just absolutely despise. The story explores how the director of this musical is trying to understand who Fela Kuti really was. He was a very complex and interesting character from Nigeria who was very, very politicised when it came to his music and his beliefs in Africa. And it is a really interesting documentary. A lot of people have criticised it, saying it never really got to the heart of this mysterious chap, but I thought, for me as someone who's recently discovered his music, I thought it was a really good gateway. I thought it was a really good film that actually explained a little bit more about this mysterious gentleman, right? This music that is still carried on to this day. And when you look at a lot of the Afrobeats artists that you get these days, such as Davido or MC Galaxy or something like that, or P Square, people like that from the modern era, it's all very much, it's so commercialised now. You know, it's all about wealth and you know, throwing about money and all that sort of stuff, and wearing all the best threads and jewellery and all that kind of thing. It's more like, it's been more Americanized. It's been more like the hip hop crowd, where it's all about showing off your wealth and you know, being sort of flashy. Whereas Fela Kuti, that was one thing I found really interesting about this guy. Even though he did have some money and he had his own compound in Nigeria, in Lagos, he was not a show off with his wealth. I really love this documentary. I've seen it a couple of times. I watched it again last night and I was still riveted by it, still absolutely riveted. And there's just so many terrific ideas. And one thing that I came away from watching it again is that we need more people like Fela Kuti. This man put his life on the line to protest through his music, through his art, to satirise the government. I think we do need more people like Fela Kuti in the music business. When you think about the music industry these days, there is no one like Fela Kuti. Yes, you get protest songs, you get these songs that raise money for earthquakes in Haiti, or they raise money, celebrities raise money for this, they raise money for that, but they don't put their life on the line. You know, you could say that, oh yeah, Bono, he's political. Nobody's like Fela Kuti. He'd been in prison so many times, he'd been beaten so many times. It's just unbelievable for what he believed in and for what he was fighting for. And from what I understand, he did bring some sort of fundamental change to Nigeria. I don't know the exact details of that, but that's what people say. And I was talking to a Nigerian gentleman the other night before I watched the film again, and he was telling me that a lot of the things that Fela Kuti talked about in his songs and in some of his so-called sermons were coming to pass. A lot of the things that are happening now were already predicted by Fela Kuti many decades ago. So that's something to take away from it. But one thing that I've always found interesting is the art. You know, these days you look at musicians, you look at filmmakers, they're just serving the almighty dollar, right? They're just making stuff to sell more stuff. Very rarely do you get someone that comes out that says something that has a deeper meaning than just, oh look, another Spider-Man movie, oh look, there's another Taylor Swift album. A Taylor Swift album about what? About the last boyfriend that dumped her, or she dumped, right? I mean, it's all good and well, but it doesn't make any difference. Fela Kuti was about actually making a difference in the world. We need more artists like that. The last time that I can recall of artists sticking their neck out like this was George Michael and the Dixie Chicks back in 2002 or 2003. Around about that time, I remember that the Dixie Chicks got boycotted because they spoke out against George W. Bush, and George Michael got absolutely lionised by the media for making a music video that satirised Tony Blair's relationship with George W. Bush, and that's just terrible. I cannot believe that. It never happened to Marvin Gaye back in 1971 when he made What's Going On, but back in 2002 they put an absolute kibosh on that. So when people think about the Dixie Chicks and George Michael, I see those guys as heroes. I see them as real heroes because they were actually willing to put their careers on the line and stick their neck out to say what's right, to do something that's right. I mean, Fela Kuti, he was willing to put his absolute life on the line. He was willing to die for what he believed in, and he was willing to die to stick it to the man. And I admire that. I really admire that. I'm not a courageous person at all. I get the jitters just sitting here talking to you, right? Sitting in my own bedroom, talking to a camera, right? I'm absolutely terrified, right? But Fela Kuti, people like that, I've got nothing but absolute admiration for that. There are aspects to this gentleman's life that I absolutely despise, but his absolute courage I admire. I'm not belittling anyone for watching Spider-Man or Superman or anything like that, but there's more to art than just that. And I've always been an admirer of the writer Alan Moore, who wrote Watchmen and V for Vendetta. There's something that he said where he said that you know, if you want to destroy your enemies, right? If you want to destroy your enemies, write a satire, right? Write a satire, because you could kill your enemies with a gun, right? You could kill them with a gun, but if you write a satire that absolutely, utterly not only humiliates them, but humiliates their entire family tree, you will destroy them. You will absolutely destroy them. And I believe that's what Fela Kuti did when he wrote Zombie. When he made that song was not out on the charts. This song was just played from every shop window in Lagos. This song was everywhere. The government couldn't stop this, right? This song was like an absolute venomous toxin going throughout Lagos that they just couldn't contain. It was an absolute virus of amazing music. And that's the thing, I believe that people are going to listen if you entertain them. If you give them something that's absolutely either hilarious or just the funkiest piece of music in the world, or the most entertaining film that they've ever seen, but right there at the heart of it, right there in the text, is this deep message. There is this message that they cannot avoid, they cannot move their face away from it. Then you're going to grab them. You're going to absolutely change their belief system. Fela Kuti is gone in physical form, but his spirit is just everywhere, right? It's just absolutely everywhere, and his music, it just absolutely transcends. It is just some of the most powerful, most life-changing music I've ever heard in my entire life.